Yo, what's up guys? I'm Finn from Mr. Finn's Films, and welcome to After Effects Basic Training, which is basically basic training for After Effects. So let's get into it, shall we? Yo, what's up guys? Finn here from Mr. Finn's Films, After Effects Basic Training, and today I thought I'd go over like the proper basics, so sort of importing and then getting started with animation. And before anyone asks, today is the same day that I filmed the intro. I'm not wearing the same shirt. I am wearing the same shirt, but it's not like I'm wearing the same shirt on like a couple of days after. It is the same day, so I'm clean, don't worry. But basically, yeah, we're just going to be looking at some basic animation and how to import, basically, which shouldn't be too long. So yeah, let's get started. Right, so to begin with, we'll start off by making a new composition. So yeah, just go composition, new composition, and then we've got this, which is basically where our video clips are going to be and where we're going to do all of our effects and whatever. So, I think probably best place to start, obviously, is to import our footage. Now there are a few ways to import our footage. The way I prefer is just to find it and then drag and drop it in, but I'll show you all the ways. So sorry, my mouse is really bad. Just go File, Import, File, and then obviously find your footage that you want. And I think the one that I was thinking about using somewhere. Here we go. This is from a little clip I was doing where I kick myself and I go flying. But basically, this is the green screened clip of me. So if you look, it's got an alpha channel, which means it's got like transparency built into it, and you can look, it's just me diving backwards, and I've green screened it, and I go out of frame, but it looks fine. But basically, let's just hit S and scale me down a bit, and then yeah, I'll just start with it. And then before I get on with the animation, a different way to import, which is the way I prefer, is you just go and find your video clip. I'll just bring this one. Oh, my mouse is really jumpy. And drag and drop it in to the project panel. And this is from where I was doing a superhero video. And I needed this one also has an alpha channel. And I needed to his hand was going out of the frame. Out of the green screen. And it's pretty bad, but it was just so I could sort of bring his hand back in without slowing my computer down too much, because I use the roto brush, which I'm sure I'll do a tutorial on. But anyway, let's just start with this, and we'll hit a good little keyboard shortcut for you is B and N. So the B button as in like buh, and then the N button as in N. So this is basically, look, if you hit N on the frame that you want to stop your clip at, it'll trim your comp. So this is the entire comp, not just the clip. The clip will stay pretty much the same, apart from it will like trim it down like that. But sorry about that, I'll cut that bit out. But anyway, so yeah, scrubbing through, and then, so yeah, what was I? Oh yeah, and then also if you right click and trim comp to work area, it makes your entire composition just the length of of where you set it. So basically, now we've got our comp to the right length for the clip. Also, a quick way of doing that, a really quick way of doing that, is to take your footage and drag it down into this little icon here, which is the new comp button. And basically, by dragging the clip onto it, the composition will have the exact same settings as that video clip, so that you can see it's not 16 by 9, it's 19 by 6 or something like that, because I filmed it sideways so I could get more of me in. But yeah, and it's exactly the same length as that clip. But I think I'll just stick with this one for now. So, animation. Basically, there's a lot of ways you can do animation. Like you've got, I don't know much about them, but you've got expressions, and you've got this animation sort of tab here. But the easiest way to do it is to, I'll show you the keyboard shortcuts in a little while, but to start with, if you just click on this little down arrow, you've got all these this transform data. So like here you've got your anchor point, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. Opacity is transparency. Oh, what's this? Oh god. Just give it a second. Well, now my computer looks very sexy. Am I still recording? Yeah, cool. So yeah, basically, if we come down here, and I'm not going to bother up with the anchor point because that's this little marker here, which is if you scale it down and stuff, it scales around that point, and you can move that with the pan behind tool. That's just my camera turning off. Don't worry. You can move that point with the pan behind tool. If I can get it, there you go. And then if I move it down here, and then scale it down, it scales down around that point. So yeah, basically, they're all of our transform options. So if I go ahead and keyframe, I'll just do the opacity, rotation, scale, and position. I'll do it here for now, and I'll turn the opacity down to 0, and then I'll scale it down. Obviously you can't see it at the moment, in fact I'll do the opacity last. But I'll scale it down, and I'll move it across, and I'll spin it around a couple of times. So now look, we've got a keyframe, and these keyframes hold all of this data here. So you've got the rotation at 2 times 353 degrees, and then all of that stuff. But if I'm going to move forward to where I want my animation to end, so I'll just go to the end. And then if you look down here, you've got this button here, these little buttons here. And if you click them, it'll create a new keyframe. But obviously at the moment it's got the same sort of, information on as these keyframes. So what we want to do is, with our little marker thing here over those keyframes, we can just, also, yeah, better way of doing it, if you just hit V, which gets you just the normal pen tool, you can just drag it. I'll drag it up here, I'll scale it up, oh, like that, handsome face there. That's me. And then I'll set this back to 0, 0 times 0, and then I'll come back here and set the opacity to 0. So now if we scrub through it, you can see that as he spins and gets bigger and moves up, it's animated. Also, some handy animation tips. If you want your animation to look a bit more realistic, you've got motion blur. I won't turn that on just yet, just because it sort of slows it down quite a bit. But in fact, I'll rotate that a little bit less because you can't really see it at the moment. So I'll on this keyframe, I'll just turn this back up a little bit. So now he's only rotating like once. So yeah, you've got motion blur, and to do that, if you press F4, if you can't see the option here, if you see the track mat and the parent, if you just press F4 or toggle switches /modes, it comes up with these little icons and the checkboxes underneath them. And if you just switch on the motion blur, obviously at the moment you don't see anything happen, but if we come up to these buttons up the top here and click this one that enables motion blur for all the layers with motion blur switch set, click on that one, and if you look at this, now across the edge you've got a bit of blur, like directional blur, in the way that it's spinning, and you can't really see it because I'll not have those the opacity so you can see it a bit better. But look, so look, that's with motion blur and that's without, with motion blur without. So so yeah, if you look at that, it just looks a little bit more realistic and sort of more easy to watch in a way. And also, another good way to make your animations look a bit sort of nicer is Easy Ease keyframes, and it's not really anything that most people have a clue about what it is, but basically it means on the points either a few keyframes after or a few frames before these keyframes, it'll sort of gradually slow them down or speed them up into a like start or stop. So if I use these ones as an example, so at the moment he's just starting, and he's going the same speed the entire time, and it just sort of looks a bit like he just suddenly stops. Right, over here, he doesn't sort of slow down to a stop, he just stops. Or I just stop. And a way to like sort of make this look a bit nicer is if you select all the keyframes that you want to make into Easy Ease keyframes, and normally what I do is press F9, but I think that would like do something to my recording, so I'm not going to do that. But if you just right click on them, and then right click on the keyframes, and go Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, and this way, if you look, it's sort of a bit of a smoother stop. You can't really notice it here, but if I show you, if we go into the grid thing, you can see here, if you look at the position one, it sort of starts faster, and then it sort of slowly begins to stop that until it gets to 0. And you can edit this. So if you you got these handles here, you can edit these to make them sort of change, and I can make it proper like sudden stop, or you can sort of ease it in, so it sort of just at the end it sort of slows down. You can't really notice it because it just keeps replaying the animation, but basically it just makes it sort of a bit nicer, if you know what I mean. And I'm sorry, this isn't my best tutorial, but I'm just really tired right now and I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Well, I do obviously, but I'm tired, and sorry if I keep babbling on or whatever. I'm just, yeah. But basically, that is how you animate. And obviously, you can get into sort of more complicated animations, sort of like 3D stuff. Sort of like if I was to click this switch here, which is near the motion blur switch, to turn on 3D, I can push him back in Z space and stuff. And now if I look, it sort of moves back, but he scales. It's not just scaling him down, because it's like exponential, if you get what that means. But it basically means if you look down here, if I turn that on, there you go, see it a bit better. If you look down here, the gaps between the keyframes here, so that you've got a gap here. Oh. You've got this gap here from this keyframe to this keyframe. As you scroll down, they start getting smaller, like the gap between them starts getting smaller and smaller. And this is because if you've ever like seen a perspective, like painting or something, and then as the painting gets further back in distance, everything gets smaller, but it doesn't just go from big to small. It sort of starts getting smaller quite quickly, and then but towards the end, it sort of gets smaller a lot more slowly, and that sort of, so if you watch this, you can see at the beginning I'm moving a really long way between each time, but as I go through frame by frame, you can see I'm getting smaller and smaller, sort of a lot slower. And if I come back up at the beginning, you can see there's loads more motion blur, and then as it gets further back, it's not. And also, if to show you that this isn't going across and just getting smaller, it's actually going backwards. If I come here where it says active camera and go to the top view, you can see the camera is sort of looking from here and looking in this direction, and you can see here that look, that's our little bit of footage there going back, because obviously it's 2D, you can't see it from up here apart from just the line, and you can see that the gap between each keyframe is actually exactly the same. It's just from this perspective you can see that it almost looks like the gap between them is getting smaller, and I've just moved him and sort of made him move less between each frame as he gets further on. Yeah, but there you go, that's day 1 of After Effects basic training done, and I'm sorry it was really bad. I haven't done a tutorial in forever and I'm not very good at it at the moment, but yeah, come back, well, subscribe, and then you'll know when the next one's on. And I promise this next one will be a lot better. If you look at some of my other couple of tutorials, I'm a lot more sort of comfortable in those ones. I just feel a bit jittery today. But basically, that's that's part 1. And rate, comment, subscribe, and come back for part 2, which I'll probably bring out tomorrow. Alright, see ya. Thanks, bye. Thanks for watching.